Probably one of the most dominant fighters in the UFC that most people really haven't really taken time to appreciate yet is flyweight champion Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. Maybe it's because a lot of his fights go long. Maybe it's because he's just too nice of a guy. Maybe they just don't like the fact that he's in one of the smallest weight divisions the UFC has, and the tiniest men's class. I can guarantee you one thing, he has one insanely compelling matchup when he faces off against an old foe at UFC 191. He takes on John the Magician Dodson, a rematch from January 2013 where Dodson was the person who came the closest so far to taking the title from Mighty Mouse. It was a close decision, but Mighty Mouse won, and Dodson has been wanting a rematch ever since. This Saturday night, he gets it on pay-per-view. And there's a lot of other good fights on that card as well. So even if you're not the biggest fan of the flyweights, you'll be a big fan of some of the other fights that'll be on the card as well. You know what you might also be a big fan of? Winning money playing fantasy MMA at Kountermove.com. You're probably wondering what the hell I'm talking about. Allow me to explain. Kountermove Fantasy MMA works just like the fantasy football leagues where you pay in, you pick a team of fighters, and if you have the best team, you win the most money. It's the same thing, very much the same thing, and it's 100% legal. So what I'm going to do in this video, like I've done in a few of my other Kountermove prediction videos, and I've done fairly decent, although my last video kind of was a dud. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run down the card, I will give you my predictions for each fight, and then I will give you my opinion as to who you should and should not put on your team. So you're probably wondering, okay, how do we play? You go first off to Kountermove.com and you select a game. There are free games, there are expensive games, there are cheap games, there are mid-price games, but basically, there's games. Pick a game, any game, it doesn't matter. Once you pick a game, you go to the fighter selection screen. You'll have to pick a team of 5 fighters and you'll have to stay within an imaginary salary cap of $25,000. Once you pick your team, hit the play now button. And if you have the most points in your game, you win the top money. But even if you place, say one game is the top 30 placers will get money. So if you're the 30th best picker in that game, you're still going to win money. It may not be, say, $1,000, but it'll be at least, who knows, maybe $10. Or it could be more than that. Depends on the game. So, you're probably wondering, how are points scored? Points are scored based on takedown attempts, significant strikes, submission attempts, knockdowns, I believe dominant positions, I sometimes forget, and rounds won. But you know what we really want? Finishes. Finishes give you bonuses. First round finish, 100 points. Second round finish, 75 points. Third, fourth, and fifth rounds, 50 points. What we basically want are finishes, and we want them as soon as we can get them. That gives you the most points. So, here we go. I'm going to run down the card. I'm going to give you my picks for who wins, whether you should go with the fight or not, and if you should actually put them on your team or not. And I'll also give you my personal picks. Now, once again, what we want are finishes, and we want them fast. And my apologies to some of the fighters in this if I completely butcher their names. Because I will admit, I have not seen all of these fighters. At least not yet. First off, Nazareno Malagari versus Joaquim Silva. Malagari is 23-3 with a 87% finish rate, 15 in the first round, but he has not fought a high level of competition, or even a decent level of competition. Joaquim Silva is undefeated, 7-0, 100% finish rate, all of which are in the first round, but he has also not fought a very good level of competition. This one is a bit of a toss-up. I, again, have not really seen either of these fighters. Apparently, they were on Ultimate Fighter Brazil 4, which explains a lot as why I haven't seen them. If I had to pick, I'd probably say Silva. When he wins, all of his wins are finishes. All of them are in the first round. That's kind of what we want. And at 4,400, he's a cheap pick. So if you want to make some room for some higher priced fighters, Silva is perfectly fine to put on your team. I think it's a little closer than that. I will personally skip it, but Silva would honestly not be a very bad pick for your team at all. Next, we have Joe Riggs versus Ron Stallings. Joe Riggs is 40-16 with 1 no contest. He has a 90% finish rate, 27 in the first round. He has been around for a very long time. He's fought everyone there is to fight. He's fought some of the absolute best in the entire sport. But in his 2 fights back in UFC, he has not looked that good. And he has 8 losses in the first round. Ron Stallings is 13-7 with 1 no contest. He has a 92% finish rate, 6 in the first round. Has not fought as good a roster of fighters as Joe Riggs has. And 4 of his losses are in the first round, 3 of which are by knockout or TKO. Based on that alone, especially considering that half of Riggs' wins are by knockout, it's tempting to put Joe Riggs on your team, especially at 4,600. But he has not looked very good, as I said. I think he is very much on his way out of the sport. I think Stallings, while not a good fighter, is certainly better at this point in time than Riggs. 5,000 is pretty average. I'm going to actually put Stallings on my team. I think he beats Riggs. I think he beats him badly. I guess you probably shouldn't sleep on Riggs, but I think Stallings wins this fight. Next, we have Thiago Tritor versus Clay Collard. Thiago is 19-5-2 with 1 no contest. He has about a 69% finish rate, 4 in the first round. He hasn't really fought anyone above average or notable, but he is a decent fighter nonetheless. Clay Collard is 14-6 with 1 no contest. He has a 71% finish rate, 7 of them in the first round. A decent level of competition. And a fairly, I guess, and like Thiago Tritor, a decent fighter in his own right. This one's a much closer one to call than it looks. I think despite his lack of better experience, I think Tritor is a bit of a better fighter than Collard. It's a toss-up. If I had to pick, I'd say Tritor, but I think this probably will end up going to a decision, and I'm not willing to pick any of these fighters for my team as a result. Up next, we have Jessica Andrade versus Raquel Pennington. Andrade is 13-4 with a 77% finish rate, 5 in the first round. She's fought people from Marion Renault to Liz Carmouche and everyone in between. And so she's fought some good fighters. She defeated Raquel Pennington by split decision at UFC 171, so this is a rematch. Pennington is 5-5. She has a 60% finish rate, 2 in the first round. She's also fought good fighters, and she's only been finished once out of her 4 losses, but that was by submission. The fact that Andrade is a good submission fighter, I mean, she can win by knockout as well, but I think she's a better chance to get a submission. I like Andrade at 4,700. I think she's simply a better fighter than Pennington. This will not be as close as the matchup at 171 had been. I'm picking Andrade. I think she wins this early. I think she's a good addition to your Kountermove team. Up next, we are going to have a doozy. John Lineker versus Francisco Rivera. Lineker is 25-7 with a 60% finish rate, 6 in the first round. He's fought very, very good fighters, some very high-level guys, but those wins, those fights came at flyweight, where he had so much trouble cutting weight. Now he has to fight at bantamweight. Francisco Rivera is 11-4 with 1 no contest. He has a 73% finish rate, 6 in the first round. He's fought some of the very best at bantamweight, including Uriah Faber. His most recent win was against Alex Caceres, aka Bruce Leroy. That was a finish. He only has 1 knockout loss, and that was almost 5 years ago. The fact that Lineker's bread and butter is knockout And the fact that Rivera has only been knocked out once, and that was a long time ago, leads me to think this is a very close fight. Rivera has, as shown here, some insane power in his hands. This is a very close fight. You may want one of these guys in your team. I might pass this because it is a little too close to call. But I think if you really want to put anyone on your team, I think Rivera is the best chance. He will stop anybody. I think the one question mark here is the fact that Lineker, 3 of his losses were by submission, and Rivera has never submitted anyone. So that may be something to consider. Up next, we have Paul Felder versus Ross Pearson. Felder is 10-1 with a 70% finish rate, all by knockout. 2 first-round finishes. He is a very scrappy, very tough fighter. His last fight was a close loss this past July to Edson Barboza via decision. And Felder has been tutored recently, I guess more or less tutored anyway, by the one, the only, Cowboy Donald Cerrone. I think that's something to keep in mind. Ross Pearson is 17-9 with 1 no contest. He has a 70% finish rate. 6 in the first round. He's fought very solid competition in the UFC lightweight division for several years since I believe he won one of the divisions of Ultimate Fighter when Michael Bisping coached against Dan Henderson. However, Pearson has lost 2 of his last 3, although one of his most recent losses, if I remember correctly, was an extremely controversial split to Diego Sanchez. However, in one of those last 3 fights, he was finished. Pearson's a good fighter. I have all the respect in the world for him, but I think he gets finished. I think Felder finishes him. I think he finishes him big time. I think Pearson is getting his lights turned out. At 5,200, Felder's a little pricey, but I think if you can make good room for him, he belongs on your Kountermove team. Up next, we kick off the main card. Paige VanZant versus Alex Chambers. VanZant is 5-1 with only a 40% finish rate, 1 first-round finish. In just the short period of time she's been fighting, she's fought some extremely good fighters and beaten some extremely good fighters, including her last win, a lopsided decision victory over Felice Herrig. She has not been stopped in her career. Alex Chambers is 5-2. She has an 80% finish rate, 3 times in the first round. However, she has been submitted in both of her losses and both in the first round. I think VanZant is the real deal. I think she is a person to watch at women's strawweight. However, it would be interesting to see if she can actually finish Chambers, as, again, most of her finishes go to decision. It should also be noted VanZant is the most expensive fighter on this card at $5,800. That's too pricey for me. I will not put her on my team. You may note when you're looking at this that Chambers is $3,800. Unless you really think she's going to hit the upset, don't bother putting Chambers on your team. It's not worth it. I think she gets beaten and beaten. I wouldn't be surprised if she gets finished. Up next, Corey Anderson versus Jan Blachowicz. I probably completely mispronounced that one. Anywho, Anderson is 5-1 with a 60% finish rate, all by knockout. 3 in the first round. He's a decent fighter so far, but he still has plenty to learn, as his loss to Jean Vellante proved. Blachowicz is 18-4 with a 67% finish rate, 6 in the first round. He's fought a very strong level of competition thus far. However, he's more likely to submit an opponent than he is to knock them out. Anderson is also a better wrestler, I think. However, we didn't really get to see that against Vellante. Vellante was able to keep it standing. I think that's where Blachowicz needs to, what he needs to do to win. However, if he can put Anderson on the ground, I'm pretty sure he can also submit him as well. And I think Blachowicz at this point is just so much better than Anderson. I think Blachowicz wins. I think he wins pretty easily. I think he wins in a big finish early. At $4,900, that's also cheap. I think he is a worthy pick for any Kountermove team. Up next, we have Anthony Johnson versus Jimmy Manuwa. Rumble is 19-5 with a 68% finish rate, 10 in the first round. However, he has been submitted 4 times. He is a nightmarishly dangerous fighter as a light heavyweight, but he has very suspect cardio, and he may or may not have his head completely in the game because of his recent issues with domestic violence scandals and whatnot. Manawa is... I forgot to write Manawa's stats down. I believe he's 15-1, but I could be wrong. Anyway, he has a 94% finish rate. That is insane. 10 in the first round. His only loss was a second round TKO loss to Alexander Gustafsson, who, I might add, was beaten in a violent TKO by Anthony Johnson earlier this year. Manawa is an extremely underrated fighter at light heavyweight. As good as Rumble is, there's that question of his cardio and the question of his head is really in the game or not. I don't think you can sleep on Manawa, and if you feel he's worth the price at $4,000 and think he's going to get the upset, I think he's a worthy pick for your team. However, I think Anthony Rumble Johnson will be able to win this fight. His only knockout loss was an eye injury, and it was also a totally BS stoppage. I mean, it was not a bad... I mean, it needed to be stopped, but it was also scored in the wrong direction. Anyway, less said about that fight, the better. I think Anthony Johnson wins this. I think he probably knocks Manawa out. However, you can't sleep on Manawa, and at 5,600, I think Johnson is too pricey. Skip him. Skip this fight. Unless you really think that Manawa can get the upset, in which case 4,000 is cheap and is a good value. So maybe you do consider Manawa, all things considered. Up next, we have one incredible fight that I can't believe is actually happening in the year 2015. Andrei Arlovski versus Frank Mir. Both of them former UFC heavyweight champions. Arlovski is 24-10 with one no contest. He has an 84% finish rate, 13 in the first round. He has fought the absolute best that the sport has ever had to offer. 5 straight wins in it. He's on a 5-fight win streak. His last 2 wins by violent knockout. 7 knockout losses, however, are on his record, but he has not been knocked out since 2011. Frank Mir is 18-9. He has a 78% finish rate, 12 in the first round. He has fought and beaten literally almost everyone the sport has had as well, including guys like Brock Lesnar and Mirko Krokop Filipovic. Mir's last 2 wins were by knockout. No, his last 2 fights, excuse me, he won by knockout to stop a 4-fight losing streak, which also included 2 knockout losses. He has also been knocked out 7 times in his career, but 5 of those are in the first round. He's one of the most dangerous submission fighters in the UFC heavyweight division. You have to put one of these people on your team. It's not a question of should I or shouldn't I. You must put one of these 2 on your team. Someone's getting finished. Someone is getting finished in violent fashion. Mir may have his best chance in trying to submit Arlovski, but the biggest problem is getting Arlovski to the ground. I think his wrestling defense has actually improved. You know, this is such a tough one to pick. But again, you have to put one of these 2 on your team. I'm picking Arlovski. I don't think you can sleep on Frank Mir. At 4,600, he's not a bad price. But I like Arlovski. I think Arlovski can really put a massive hurting on Frank Mir. And where 5 of Mir's knockout losses have been in the first round, I think that works even more in Arlovski's favor. I will put the Pitbull on my Kountermove team, and I think you probably want him on your team as well. If you think Frank Mir is a better option, put Frank Mir on. It doesn't matter. One of these heavyweights must be on your team. This is a one fight where it's like, you can't skip this one. This is ending quickly and it ends violently. You have to put one of these 2 on your team. And finally, our main event, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson versus John the Magician Dodson. Anyone who has seen Mighty Mouse knows what he can do. there's really not much else that needs to be said about Mighty Mouse. He is 22-2-1. He has a 59% finish rate, 8 in the first round. He is one of the most dominant fighters the UFC has. He is the most dominant fighter at flyweight, obviously because he is the flyweight champion. He gets better with every fight. Even when the fight is dragging on into the 5th round, he still actively looks for finishes. He beat Kyoji Horiguchi with 1 second left by submission at UFC 186. The one thing is, Johnson's last fight with John Dodson was a close decision win. Something to consider there. But again, he gets better with every fight. It's almost insane how much better he gets every time. John Dodson is 17-6. He has a 53% finish rate. Okay, I'm reading that right. 7 in the first round. He won the season of the bantamweight season of Ultimate Fighter. I believe it was Ultimate Fighter 14. That was Miller versus Bisping. He knocked out a certain TJ Dillashaw, if that's any indication. Dodson has never been finished in his career. He has insanely dangerous knockout power. However, in his most recent fight, he was less than impressive in beating Zach Makovsky. If you want my honest opinion, I think John Dodson wins this. As good as Mighty Mouse is, and as much as he's been getting better and better and better, I think Dodson wins this fight. I think we have a new flyweight champion. However, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm wrong. Mighty Mouse could very well not only beat Dodson, but finish him. This is a tough fight to call. I think Dodson wins, but it could go either way. I would not pick on this fight, especially where Mighty Mouse is priced a rather shocking $5,800. So now that I've ran down this really, I think, underrated for the most part and absolutely insane on the top part card, it's time to make your picks. You pick whoever the hell you want to pick. It doesn't matter. My picks will be Andrei Arlovsky, Jan Blachowicz, Jessica Andrade, Ron Stallings, and Paul Felder. Once you've made your picks, hit the play now button, and from now until fight night, if you suddenly wake up in the middle of the evening and think, you know what, maybe I shouldn't pick Arlovsky, I should pick Frank Mir, or maybe you're thinking, I shouldn't pick Blachowicz, I should pick Anderson, or maybe you're thinking something else, I don't know, I don't read your mind. You can go right ahead and change your team. Switch somebody out. You have from now until the start of fight night to do so. It's not a big deal. This is a much better card than you may be thinking. Not because it's got not just because there's a flyweight champ in my championship match, but because the undercard has got so much intrigue, so much awesomeness attached to it. I mean, just the heavyweight co-main event is worth the price of the pay-per-view. But getting a chance to see one of the most dominant champions not named Ronda Rousey is also worth it. And it's also worth taking a shot at winning big at Fantasy MMA at Kountermove.com. Don't wait. Finish watching this video. Put yourself in one of those games. Win big. I know I have. Maybe not the last time around at UFC 191, but I have won big before. I don't know. I've got a good feeling about this lineup that I got. And you may feel good enough about your lineup, and you may very well win the big money. You never know until you try, but at Kountermove.com, you very much can try. So until UFC 192, which is going to be a heck of an event as well, I'm Gus Richland,